All right, thank you everyone for joining. This is the OWASP Sustainability Working Group. Salve, you want to you have an update on your side?
Sure. I had the joy of talking with some of the CHAOSS community folks last week, and they signaled that some of them would like to join us in the coming meetings, and wanted to ask if we could move our meetings 1 hour later or earlier. As I understand it, that's something we can do.
That is something we can do, especially since the meeting has we just got it scheduled not too long ago, and now would be the time to do it. So we will schedule that for 1 hour later. That means, let's see, let me get out my faithful conversion clock here. That means that instead of starting at 4 p.m. UTC, it would start at 5 p.m. UTC.
Starting on Thursday, September 19th, 2024.
Yes, the 19th, correct? Yes. So new meeting time, 5 p.m. UTC on the 19th. Sound like a plan? That way, hopefully, some of the other folks can join us.
Awesome.
All right. Has there been any changes, updates to the doc at all?
Yes. Let's see. I'll try and find my website here. I have added a couple use cases based on my own notes. It's just 3 for now. I have added a couple of the words and terms in the glossary that I've used in these 3 examples, and not the definitions, but just the terms for now. And a list of source materials and references that I gathered in my research for this topic here. So, while the reference list isn't at the moment super useful, my hope is that we can draw inspiration and ideas from there. And there we will find a couple really nice references. Actually, Georg here, who's with us, shared with me a while back. So this
Fantastic.
is super useful. Yeah. So that's CHAOSS has a list of types of contributions. Microsoft wrote a blog post with a few interesting points a while back. There's an article published not many weeks ago, actually, that had some perspectives, which I think is relevant. And there are some inspiration from the CPAN ecosystem that I've been using as a base to work from. In addition, there has been a few meme-like project statuses that have been going around, which I think actually are useful. That is for example, to explicitly say that a project is unmaintained, or that a project is casually maintained. So this is well within what I think is worth communicating to users.
Okay. Yep.
And that's the work I've done until now.
Awesome. We should probably review that document. Just making sure everything was organized here.
Do you want me to share the screen, or do you want to do that?
Okay, I finally got in there. All right. Let me just share real quick. Okay, so this is the doc. Language or package ecosystem hosts discovers maintainer is not reachable. Okay.
Yeah, these are just the initial ones. And if you follow one of the reference links there, which, let me see if I can find it, which goes to the CPANSEC 2024. That's my personal
Right.
list. That one contains a whole lot more, which I'm thinking of adding to this document, so we can get
Okay.
a reasonably rich set of use cases that we can
Okay.
carefully consider.
Right. Okay. So the unreachable thing. Okay. Maintainer declares they intend to stop responding. Okay. Right.
That has actually happened on CPAN. Basically,
Sure.
people who said, I'm not doing open source anymore. I got kids and a
Yep.
family, and I don't have time for this anymore, and just basically leaves.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Happens all the time.
It does.
Um, Equivalent to adopt me, right? Okay.
Well,
Um,
adopt me, then the maintainer would hang out for a little longer and actually maybe do some vetting of anybody who would like to step in and take over and
right,
teach them instead of just bailing out.
right. Yep. Um,
Beyond,
has introduced that's actually a really important one from a security perspective. There's been
yes,
countless issues. NPM is notorious for probably because it's just such a big target, and JavaScript is such a big language. But happens all the time over in NPM land where somebody's no longer maintaining. You end up getting maintainer, and they turn out to be malicious.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. The whole vetting thing, especially when considering the XZ attack that happened this Easter, that's as special kind of worms that we kind of have to at least be able to handle. And while the act of vetting someone is something that shouldn't be done quickly. Like, for example, if you look at how the Debian community does their vetting, they have a quite well documented way of doing it, and it includes that you start out as a guest, so far as I remember, and you have a period where you get to learn the ropes on how things are put together, and you get a mentor that will help you along. And you can join some channels where you can ask questions and interact and try out stuff. And since this is like critical infrastructure, they make sure, I guess, that this is also done in a thorough way. And the full access to upload thing isn't something that is being given away until you have built up trust over time. And I'm not entirely sure to what extent it's meaningful to discuss the vetting process there, but at least having a signal that says that help is needed, and then see where that at least goes. This is unplown fields for most communities, I think. Only the most well-run big ones have a proper procedures around this.
Is
And
there a common noun that would describe what you just said, for like in the case of like Debian, right? Or maybe all of the Apache Foundation projects, right? Where there's a little bit of formality, um, there's a little bit of process that a individual contributor goes through from, having read-only access to the repo, obviously, like anybody would, to ultimately becoming a maintainer of something, right? Is there a specific noun for that? that we know of?
That would be useful to know. I cannot think of my English is not my first language, so
I know, I know.
so I'm sorry I can't help you there. But it's a
Yeah,
good question to probably add to the. I don't know if the parking loss is intended for something like that, but a glossary in parentheses. What would be the process of vetting someone? Is that a name for a
yeah, yeah. Like onboarding or vetting. I mean, vetting is an optional thing to onboarding a maintainer, right? Because you can onboard a maintainer without any vetting.
yeah,
Um, but I'm just thinking, like, in addition to the sustainability efforts, we might be able to also include an external reference that could actually point to a onboarding or vetting process. Like
yeah,
if you have a Debian, if you've got Debian in your stack, right, then you could theoretically link out to the vetting process that they actually go
yeah,
through for that particular component, right?
yeah. And now I'm a little bit out of my field here, but if I'm gonna take take a let's call it an educated guess at this, um, the whatever procedures or vetting or trust building exercises will be happening, they will have to happen on a personal basis no matter what. uh,
Right.
Having an institutional access to upload something into an ecosystem shouldn't be anything special other than and treated similarly as a person. It is people you trust, and it's the people's reputation which is valuable in a sense. So
Right.
having something mentioned in this document and in the spec that leads someone to Google for the right um, thing to learn from, or to, like, for example, having somebody who has access and is a trusted uploader to some ecosystem, not for just their own packages, but on the other end of it, for example, as a host of or something. I don't know what the word would be. Would be for some, I think, a useful thing to put in on a CV, or if you want to hire someone. So, or if you need to figure out if, say, a business uses a specific set of frameworks or a specific fully bought into an ecosystem, they want to have a stake in the future health of the ecosystem by contributing that it's actually functioning and it isn't being taken over by people who don't have the same positive
Right.
intentions, for example.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I can imagine a whole lot of scenarios where this stuff can be useful, but
Yeah.
it's, strictly speaking, I don't think it's for me, having terms that are relevant and Googleable on this topic is maybe as far as we should go.
Mhm.
So that like a major part of this I'm thinking is that we enumerate different states and needs in a sensible way to give that menu of options to choose between, but also to learn, like, this is our common things that can happen with an open source project, or common needs that need to be fulfilled in some way, and help anybody who cares, literally
Right.
speaking, actually cares to actually step up and help, which
Yep.
is, this is sorely needed. So many communities.
The okay, so that's use case 2. Use case 3 is basically the project is done. This is a
Okay.
good one because this if we were to support something like this could theoretically help OSSF scorecard. Scorecard, we've had a lot of debates on the usefulness of scorecard, both inside the security community and various employers and everything else. And the consensus, I guess, of the folks that I've talked to is that it can be useful sometimes, usually as an indicator of bad. Not necessarily a good scorecard doesn't necessarily mean that the project is doing good. It only means that they have a good score. However, a bad scorecard can be an indicator. However, these smaller projects that serve a single purpose and the project is done, right? There's really no need to have any ongoing maintenance or very little maintenance. They get penalized because of the way scorecard works. So this theoretically could be used as a way to help scorecard improve.
Yeah. Like this is also something which is necessary for a certain class of problems that just are like that. Again, and there I think it's useful to be clear that there's something called open problems and closed problems. Closed problems have a solution, and it's well known when it's implemented, there is no more left to implement. While open solutions are problems, no, open problems are problems that don't have a finished, clear solution. And an example of an open problem would be how to recognize spam, for example. Right. This is a moving target, and you have to use all kinds of clever tricks and machine learning, for example, or Bayesian analysis, or there's a whole lot of, or just keyword rules like a spam assistant does. That it will never be solved, because there's an opponent, there's an adversary that will adopt to any strategies that any anti-spam measure would employ. So, and there's a whole lot of other problems out there that have this quality that will forever be ongoing work and be an expense. And those people, those kind of projects where you have to adopt to humans or some other things in reality, those definitely would benefit from having the looking at how well a project around to solve this problem is run, and what kind of features that project has. Like, does it have a project manager? Is there community leadership there? Do they have onboarding processes? Do they have a public forum or a bug tracker that is available for everybody? Or this could be anything. While something that is done doesn't need almost anything. The only situation where a done project might require any more tending would be if there's something in the environment that is significant and that changes. And that could be, for example, support for a new compiler version, if as old ones are phased out, for example, and you need to maybe change a little bit of the code in order to not issue warnings while compiling or fix some breakage, or that some new OS assumptions about the operative system that is used, it suddenly doesn't work anymore. Like moving away from system V to system 5 to the system D. That's like if you have a solved problem somehow that is dependent on how the system is being started and what process number one looks like and can do, then you have to adapt. Maybe that's a little bit unrealistic, but the point stands, I think.
Is the opposite of, you mentioned something that's really interesting in there. So done is one thing. I think that's, but you framed it in terms of like unsolvable problems. when it comes to funding, organizations might, for example, choose to fund like things that are done. And fund, I mean, it could be financial, it could be PRs, it could be whatever, right? They are going to contribute to solving some challenges. And from a PKI or even like an OKR perspective, right? They can measure, for example, hey, we've actually contributed to 100 open source projects this year. And out of those contributions, we helped 20 of them be complete, right? They are done. Another approach would be to say, well, we are going to invest this amount of resources, money, whatever, to help with this very strategic thing of ours that is essentially a moving target, right? It's never going to be done. And as an organization, I might actually want to measure that differently.
Yeah.
But knowing that a project is an unsolvable problem, you know, it's always a moving target. That might be something interesting to also kind of tease out and possibly even support, because from a contribution perspective, organizations might actually care about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're thinking that it would be meaningful to claim, allow the maintainer to also claim that their project cannot be done or is undone or not.
Right.
Or is it the inverse of what you were talking about? Is that making this a positive claim out of this? I think you can imply that the project will probably need tender loving care.
Yeah.
In almost every case, unless it's specifically a close problem, and that can be considered done. So in a sense, I'm wondering if maybe it shouldn't be implied, but the implication is pretty clear though, that because we already know that maintaining and fixing software over time is an expense that you basically shouldn't run away from. While some try, they learn the cost of technical debt eventually. It does, like I'm thinking that the amount of closed problems out there that we could consider done is a limited amount. At some point, all the algorithms have been implemented. At some point, all the heuristics libraries are done. Like you only need to have a reasonably fast and A-star algorithm, for example. And yes, of course, it could be faster. But at some point, you kind of have pulled out the last little few drops of it. And if something needs to be made faster or less error prone or something, then it might be something that requires addressing the environment and not this particular implementation.
Right.
So
yeah, I'll have to figure out whether or not that's going to be useful, and if so, what word do we use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure what we would go there, but I'm thinking done. That's the obvious one, because that means a category of projects are okay, and we don't have to worry as much. But I think it's also worth noting that I've specifically made specifically yes, the maintainer claims there is nothing left to do. It is a claim. It might be wrong. This is like the human condition. We claim stuff, and it turns out we're wrong all the time. So
You're wrong. I'm never wrong.
Yeah, want to prove it? Want to see? Yeah. I'm thinking keeping some language like that in the attribute or field description is probably
Right.
useful. So that people, those who choose to make use of it, know what they are getting into, and I'm also there's one interesting conundrum in there, which I've been trying to think a little bit about, which would be awesome to have a conversation on at some point. And that is one of the things I would love to make this be the outcome of something like this sustainability study is that businesses decide to fund the open source projects they depend on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they depend on a bunch of projects that are done, what should that look like? There's no more work left to do. And then you could ask, but do we want to pay for something no work? Like you do one security vetting, like where or one like assessment of the code and code analysis to check if there is something weird going on. You get the rubber stamp from the authorities that this has gone through due diligence, and since it is done, you don't have to do it anymore. The work is absolutely finished as far as we know. Do we want to give the maintainers of done projects an equal share for their work, even if it's done? Say, for example, if a business would consider some kind of recurring investment in open source projects through some service or some foundation or something, or whatever it would show up. There will be a question of how do we distribute these funds among all the projects that they care about. And I'm a little bit worried that done projects will not get funding because there's nothing left to do. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, I don't know, but it's still like a situation where it should be positive and beneficial to consider making open source libraries or modules or components that solve closed problems and thereby can become done. But if the landscape looks like the only way you can get paid for open source work is that if you solve open problems that never can be done, then the people will not be able to benefit from having all those nice, juicy components that help you solve the problem. You just need a way to sort in a certain way, for example, or you just need a way to create a linked list in a certain balanced way, for example, or whatever it is. And if you have a library and you can use it, done, you've suddenly saved a lot of money. But there's a signal effect there also.
Maybe instead of done, we decompose that a little bit further and say something to the fact that done is both supported, and because you're saying here that there are no known bugs left to fix. We're not saying that they're never going to work on it. It's just no known bugs. But if what I know today changes tomorrow, the maintainer still. So a done project essentially is something that's still maintained, but future work is unplanned. No future work is planned. So maybe we decompose done into those two elements.
You know what? We don't need that. I think just having the possibility to have several statuses is enough.
Mhm.
Because among the others that I haven't added yet here is statuses like unmaintained or casually maintained or
Right.
just maintained.
Right.
This is fully maintained.
Right.
And if it's done and fully maintained or done and casually maintained, that's enough of a signal.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't want to, I don't want to limit it. I don't want to create a spec that could penalize a maintainer for having a project that's done.
Yes,
They shouldn't be penalized for that.
yeah, I completely agree. But
Okay.
so the done says, I think the done flag is still useful just by the fact that it signals some confidence about the state of the project and what the maintainer, how confident the maintainer is that there is nothing left to do. And for certain components and projects, that is true. That's what it is. So, and describing reality should always be what we should lean towards
Right.
in any case. So, but promising to be available to handle, say for example, vulnerabilities that are discovered or changes in the environment that needs to be supported, like new compilers or whatever. That type of promise from the maintainer or from the community and the co-maintainers, I think is worth having its own like in a sense, that is a category, because right now what I've focused on in the three initial priorities that I listed at the top of the document is the goal is to enumerate project states, project and who gets to claim anything about those, of course, because it's not enough to just claim a state, a project is in a certain state or condition. You have to also know who claims it.
Yep.
And to enumerate the project needs. But what we've just said now is there is a fourth point here, and that is to say something about project promises. Or if you promise, if the project governing body or or benevolent dictator for life says, I'll support this. This is the promise, and I'll support it to this extent or in this way, casually, fully, commercially, or not at all. Or by least effort. Those are the 5 I can think of types of promises.
I think that's right. I think that's right. I don't know if I would call them promises, but
well,
yeah,
whatever
I
it's
think,
called.
yeah, exactly.
It is a commitment, at least, to the project and the users of the project from the.
It's an intent. Yeah, it's an intent. I intend to X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not a full-out, all-out promise, but it's still like it communicates that you are there, and that is useful for the end users.
It is. Yeah. Okay.
I think we should just add that.
You want to go ahead and add that? Okay.
I can add that. Yeah.
All right.
If we don't call it promises, what we should. You said something.
Intents. Intents.
I'm using. I have a. I don't know if this is okay or not, but I'm capitalizing some keywords here like maintainers and the other terms like co-maintainer, ecosystem host, integrator. These are terms, and mostly this is because that's what's being used in the Cyber Resilience Act. And since they're kind of first movers in very important ways, it's an example I'd like to follow.
So the CRA capitalizes like roles? I might be, it's me just reading things into it. So it's a convention that I've, maybe it's me that I've been creating the convention for myself to point out that I'm not talking about any old maintainer, but the maintainer or the maintainer. Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Support or responsiveness or something security vulnerability related. Okay, we can add it later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, when project intents, it would be actually the maintainer's intents.
Right. Yep.
Okay. I think that should be good. And that means the intents or the intent of the project is to support it. And this kind of leans us a little bit into the issues that Chris raised the last time, where he wanted to get a little bit of an idea on expected support level and stuff like that. But I think he's more into deadlines and the life cycles of projects, which is I'm not entirely sure how meaningful this is, given that there's a common life cycle enumeration project going on also.
Yeah, he's got some requirements from the FDA for medical devices that they need all these different types of dates for all the different components, right? It's a federal requirement, so that's fine. For this, one thing that might be interesting, I guess one use case that might be interesting is you know, when you're talking about I intend to support, well, I intend to support only the latest release, or I intend to support the last two major, right, version things. Being able to express that in some way would be great.
Yeah, if we think as a data structure on this, having the state, the need, and the intent as separate objects, basically.
Yeah.
Where you can list the different states and needs and intents that apply. Together, if you have together with the intent some kind of a timeline or version spec. Now we're like stumbling into CLE's common lifetime enumeration territory.
Yeah, maybe.
Having something simple there would probably be okay. But here's the thing: open source projects, they're not. There's only a few ones that bother with a like a plan.
Right.
Quite a lot of the projects that, even the successful ones that I know of, they just see what's needed and they do that first, and they're based on whatever itch that scratches someone would like to scratch. So it's actocracy. Those who actually do something, they get to decide, and making that in or cajoling that into something which is predictable for some downstream project manager is, I think, actually it could be even harmful. Actually, certainly. Well, first of all, I would claim it's almost impossible. It's a kind of discussion that is soul crushing for anybody who's volunteering their work. Like, well, could you please deliver this feature by this deadline? And it's like, what? I'm doing this on my own time. That's not going to happen.
No.
And certainly for those projects that people do use, that is somewhere in the open source long tail, that's not I would claim that's not a constructive discussion to have at all. But I kind of understand where Chris comes from, that because the predictability and the being able to have an idea that if at minimum somebody is available if some security incident comes and shows their face, then that's super important.
Yeah.
So, but maybe that's enough. I don't know. Just like, okay, I'll be there unless I've been actually literally driven over by a bus. And if I'm not there, I'll make sure that somebody else can take my place.
Right, exactly. That's bus factor is, you bring up an interesting point. For sustainability, do we want to be able to have a use case that supports a contingency plan? Is there a succession?
Yeah. Yes. Good question. But that's more like a side effect of good governance.
Right.
Like a couple of years ago, I gave a presentation about this kind of topic at the German Pearl Workshop in Leipzig, I think it was, or I don't remember. Tiny conference, super nice, but I managed to get hold of a pretty well-known Australian developer to talk about open source community stuff. And I asked him, like, through some fun trickery, and it was a pre-recorded talk. I asked him for some advice that he got to choose, that he wished that more projects did. And he said right out that more projects should have a succession plan. And make it public.
Right.
Well, that's probably my interpretation. He didn't actually say make it public, I think, but it's having a succession plan that people don't know about doesn't create any kind of assurance that this is a viable project. Right. So it kind of has to be, I think. So, but now we're in that case. I think, well, having it is super useful, but I think we're more in like the metrics territory, how to figure out if a project is sustainable in general, and that it has a certain amount of activity or maintainers registered, or that it has a succession plan that is public.
Right. Maybe being able to support um, governance just as a broad topic. One thing we might want to consider when developing this spec, and I'm not saying that this is the way we should do it, but one thing we might want to consider is putting a few carrots in place for the developers to incentivize them to mature their own projects, knowing that mature projects are probably going to get more funding. And
Yeah,
having a governance doc is a sign of a certain level of maturity.
I have mixed feelings about that, and yeah, because I agree having a governance way of doing things can be super beneficial, but there's also like the dangers of creating like chicken and egg problems. You cannot grow because you don't get support, and you cannot go get support because you don't grow. And that's like a kind of conundrum that we already have had enough of, the last 20 years. I think personally, at least, and I've seen projects on really well-meaning and talented and very good people just basically give up after having asked for support from their community and getting nothing. And the little bit of feedback was like, but you're alone. Why should we bet on some one-man show? Like the state of knowledge about how to interact and treat volunteer projects and like open source projects is abysmal out there, in my I think, and it's just exceptions. Very few companies that have the resources to do it in a structured way, or have the talent to figure out this is something that is important, even if management thinks, oh, now the developers are going on again with the open source thing. It actually is important in so many ways, but creating gates for people to go through, or bars to climb over when it's all volunteer based, I'm skeptical.
Okay, let's look at it the other way then. Instead of instead of making maintainers incentivizing them to mature their projects, why don't we have a formalized way to recognize contributors, right? Including the organizations, because if you're not getting credit for something, some people feel that as a competition, but not just a list. Like, actually quantify it a little bit. Incentivize organizations, gamify that for them, right?
Yeah. We're at Pearl Toolchain Summit. This is quite a few years ago, where we talked a little bit. That's like a forum for the CPAN and the Pearl community, where we discuss the ecosystem a lot. It's like 3 days straight with just working on stuff and discussion. And one of those, we had quite a bit of a discussion around the gamification. I thought back then that was an interesting thing to explore. We already have some features in the CPAN and Perl community that could be used to create some kind of leaderboard or gamify in certain ways. But I got some pushback from the others there, and that's mostly in the form of that the people that they knew of, and I guess also they spoke to a large extent on their own behalf, they weren't in it for the games. They weren't contributing to open source because because there was some competition. Because you attract, if you make something into a game, you attract people who like games, which may be okay, But when it comes to critical components, maybe it could be a step on the way in or something, or to attract. But there's so much games out there, and why would you even consider spending time on creating a game that only a very few people would like to play? So it kind of fizzled out there. But I still have a little bit of I would love to see something at least, because people are different, and having something, a feature on in the community that makes it fun to do the right thing somehow in the form of a game, I think would still be beneficial. I'm not entirely sure how to gamify this though. How would that happen?
I have no idea. It was just, it was a thought. It was a thought. I've thought about this for a long time. One obvious thing is that you wouldn't gamify the individuals, right? Because most individuals, right? If you're an individual contributing to an open source project, you're doing it for two reasons. One, because that you're getting paid to do it because of your employer, or two, you just like the project and you are contributing your free time to it. And those people, they're not going to respond well to gamifications, but the other folks, they will. So
the barrier of, or what's it called for it, the cost of entry into these games is very steep though. It's very high cost of entry, because you need to have a software development education at minimum, and you need to know the field and that's already existing. And of course, if you're a young person with lots of energy and curiosity and a go-getter attitude, you can compensate for a lot of it by just jumping into the deep end and trying to fix things and ask questions and then fix things and repeat until you kind of have learned the ropes. That's an awesome way of doing things, but that's in itself a game already, a curiosity given based exploration game of sort. And you don't need a point system or, oh, I got 100% of quality rating, something like that, or some other scorecard thing. Right. It's in a many sense, coding and software development is already an extremely rewarding activity all to begin with. And those who get into it and figure out, wow, this is actually awesome, and they suddenly see the vast openness of the world opening in front of them, with all those possibilities, and you get blown away for a moment and figure out, oh, I can do anything literally with this knowledge. That's that's a fantastic realization people who go into coding eventually experience. And especially if they take the steps into the open source world, where you can do it together with people who are better than you and you can learn from, or even do something that is completely cutting edge and shape other people's work and get good feedback and say, you're doing awesome stuff, I love what you're doing, and then create infrastructure or all the useful stuff that literally tens of thousands of people or more use on a daily basis. That's fantastic. So why add a layer of gaming on top of that? What's it called? There's no need to gild the lily. It's already a lily.
No, just trying to find just trying to find, I guess, ways to attract people to projects. That's really kind of teasing out some different ideas. That's all this was.
Yes, I get it. I could go on for that, but I think we should probably wait with that for the next meeting, because there's attracting people to projects is super important, and signaling that co-maintainers is already on the list of things that we need to get into this spec. But co-maintainers is like a responsible person, somebody who has managed to make releases on behalf of the community of the project. But the act of recruitment, like everybody, all projects would love to have feedback and or contributors. And there's even like some people, I think it was I learned of some articles for a while back that looked at open source contributors, and they basically found out the most common form of contribution is what they call drive-by contributing. Somebody finds bumps into a problem, fixes it, submits the fix, and then leaves, never to be seen again. And that's a major part of the activity that happens in many projects. It's somebody who just like quickly just passes by and leaves behind one or two small improvements. And that's actually okay. So
absolutely. Yeah, because it becomes a numbers game, right? The more popular the project is, the more used it is, right? The more of those drive-by contributions you're going to get. So yeah,
exactly.
I get them all the time.
So yeah.
Yep. Interesting. Okay. Well, we are just about at time.
Yeah.
Good discussion today, though. Good discussion. Lots of things to dive into.
For the next meeting, I'll make sure to add at least a couple more so we can continue discussion. And if anybody watches these videos, please reach out with your commentary, because this feedback around this is like what we need.
Absolutely. Well said. I will get the meeting rescheduled starting on the 19th for 1 hour later, 5 p.m. UTC, and I'll let you know once that's out there. And,
could we add the link to this meeting here, like the Zoom link, to
I think it's on
shared
there
document?
Is it not on there?
No, there's a link to the
the calendar invite.
Yes, and the calendar invite has it. But I was thinking also putting it there so it's all in one place. I don't know if that's positive or not, because
I can do that.
I guess there's no Zoom bombing risk.
No, I've got to approve everybody that enters in anyway. So
okay,
it's fine. All right. Have a great rest of your day, and talk to you soon.
Same to you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.